Hello everyone, welcome to new IAS Daily Current Affairs program. Today is 23rd January 2019 and the current affairs we will be covering today are e-passport, debt to GDP ratio and encasing committee recommendations, excise fee vigil, ILO, future of work report, gig economy, and for the map session we will be dealing about the tectonic plates, and last we have PQRS. So, coming to the very first topic, that is about e-passport. So, Indian passport holders will soon travel with an e-passport, and this e-passport software, it was developed by IIT Kanpur and National Informatics Center together. So, IIT Kanpur and National Informatics Center, they together have developed this software for e-passport. Alright, so for the development of chip, they need to procure what? Electronic contactless inlays. So for this, government has given approval for procuring electronic contactless inlays for manufacturing this e-passport to India Security Press, which is in Nasik. So from them, the government will procure electronic contactless inlays, which is used for the manufacturing of e-passports. Alright. So, what is this e-passport? The personal particulars of an applicant would be digitally signed and it will be stored in the chip. This is what an e-passport. Alright. So, the details of a person, it will be digitally signed and it will be stored in a chip. So, if in case anyone tampers with this chip, the system shall be able to identify resulting the failure of the passport authentication. So you will be thinking that if someone get hold of this chip, he might misuse it, right? But it is a no, because access of information is protected in a way that the chip cannot be read without the physical possession of the passport. So for reading the chip, you need to have the physical presence of this passport with you. And talking about the salient features of an e-passport, this e-passport will have a thicker front and back covers, and the back cover will have a small silicon chip. Okay, and it is said that it will take only a few seconds to be read, and the memory is said to be about 64 kilobytes, and information up to 30 visits and international movements can be stored in this. That's about the details of e-passport. Alright. So, coming to the next topic, that is about debt to GDP ratio and encasing committee recommendation. So, this is a topic from your basic economic concepts. So, you might have covered all these in your economic classes. Anyway, the news is that the central government's debt as a percentage of GDP, it fell in 2017, whereas the state government's debt rose. Okay, so there is a contradicting scenario of debt to GDP ratio between the center and state. The center's total debt to GDP reduced to 46.5% in 2017-18 from 47.5%, which was in 2013-14. Okay, so there is a reduction in center's debt to GDP ratio, whereas the total debt of the state rose over this period from 22% in 2013-14 to 24% in 2017-18. So there is a 2% increase in the state debt to GDP ratio. So in absolute terms, the center's total debt showed a 45% increase, while the total debt of the states increased to almost 63%. So the state shows a higher debt to GDP ratio. And the states are moving away from the target which was specified in the encasing committee, while the center is moving towards the recommendations of the encasing committee. The major reason which was said for the increase in the state's debt is the issuance of Uday bonds. So this increased the state's outstanding liabilities. Also the farm loan waivers which was given out by some state was also a reason for the increase in the state's debt. Alright, so talking about debt to GDP ratio, so it is the debt to GDP, right? It compares a country's sovereign debt to its total economic output of the year. So the economic output, it is measured in terms of GDP. So debt to GDP is nothing but ratio of a country's public debt to its gross domestic product. Ratio between public debt to GDP. That is debt to GDP ratio. Alright. And this indicates a country's, this ratio, it indicates a country's ability to pay back its debts. Now we need to talk about encasing committee recommendations also. So this committee was appointed to review the implementation of FRBM Act, that is nothing but Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act. So this encasing committee was appointed to review the FRBM Act. So the major recommendations which was included in this committee report was the public debt to GDP ratio should be considered as a medium-term anchor for the fiscal policy, and the combined debt to GDP ratio of the center and state should be brought down to 60% by 2023, which comprising 40% of the center for the center and it will be 20% for the state. So the total debt to GDP should be brought down to 60% by 2023. And the center should reduce its fiscal deficit from the current rate of 3.5% to 2.5% by 2023. 3.5 to 2.5 by 2023, and the central government should reduce its revenue deficit. I hope you know the difference between the fiscal deficit, revenue deficit and everything. So the central government should reduce the revenue deficit steadily by 0.25% each year to reach 0.8% by 2023. So the revenue deficit should be at 0.8% by 2023. Alright, this is the details of the major important feature points to be noted in the encasing committee recommendation. Coming to the next topic, that is about excise sea vigil. So the Indian Navy, they have commenced the largest coastal defense exercise of the Indian coast, which is named as Excise Sea Vigil. The first of its kind coastal defense exercise, which aims to comprehensively and holistically validate the efficacy of the measures taken since 2611. Alright? So this will measure the efficacy of which was taken since 2611 of the Indian Navy. Alright, and this exercise, it will be undertaken along the entire coastline, that is 7,516.6 kilometer, entire coastline and exclusive economic zone of India. So this is the keyword which is to be noted. It will be undertaken along the entire coastline of India and exclusive economic zones of India. Okay. The Indian Navy and the Coast Guard will join hands with the state marine police, then state police, port authorities, and besides the fishing communities and the people who are living along the coast in 13 Indian states and union territories, and it will be for the 2-day long exercise. Okay, so they will join hands together, and this exercise, it aims to activate the coastal security mechanism across all states and union territories, and post 2611, the operational responsibilities for coastal security were entrusted with the Indian Navy and the Indian Coast Guard. And the exercise is said to be a build-up towards the major theatre level tri-service exercise, that is TROPEX. Okay, TROPEX, it stands for Theatre Level Readiness Operational Exercise. So this exercise, it will be a build-up towards this TROPEX, which the Indian Navy conducts every 2 years. And the exercise will entail both seaward and shore-based monitoring. Okay, so that's about Excise Sea Vigil. So we'll come to the next topic, that is about ILO Future of Work report and about gig economy. So the ILO, they have released a report of the future of work. So this report says that the world is leading to a state of widened inequality, increased uncertainty, and reinforced exclusion. So with the destructive political, social, economic repercussions, and also about 190 million people are unemployed while 300 million workers live in extreme poverty. So you can at least note down few statistics which can be used in your mains answer writing, either for your essay or anything. You can include all these statistics. So it is said that about 190 million people are unemployed while 300 million workers live in extreme poverty. And the wage gaps are growing at a time of declining wage growth, and 2/3 of the jobs in developing world are susceptible to automation. So automation is a problem to major MSMEs and all. So 2/3 of the job in the developing world are susceptible to automation, and it is said that implementing the Paris Climate Agreement would create 24 million new jobs, but 6 million workers are expected to lose their jobs in this transition to a greener economy. Okay, so anyway, in the net effect, there will be an increase in the employment. And talking about ILO, it was created in 1919 by the Versailles Peace Treaty, and it is a specialized agency of UN. We have already talked about specialized agencies and all. I think we have discussed about ILO also. And this ILO, it sets the international labor standards and it promotes rights at work and encourage decent employment opportunities, right? And it has got a tripartite governing structure which represents the government, employers and workers. Okay, so it has got a tripartite governing structure. And the ILO has 187 member states, and it is headquartered at Geneva, which is in Switzerland. So now talking about gig economy. So it is a definition by a labor market which is characterized by the prevalence of what? Short-term contracts or freelance work as opposed to permanent jobs. So it will be a kind of temporary or freelance works. It's not a permanent job, only like a contract or freelance work. So in a gig economy, temporary flexible jobs are common in place, and the companies tend towards independent contractors and freelancers instead of full-time employees. The companies will prefer what? Independent contractors and freelancers instead of full-time employees. So the gig economy is said to be cheaper and efficient because many number of people are willing to work for a short period of time, either it is part-time or temporary positions. Alright, and you can say that like a digital labor platform such as this Uber, Swiggy, all these are examples of gig economy. Usually, you can see in the prelims question, like they will ask what a gig economy relates to what. So you must know the definition of gig economy. Alright, I hope you are clear with this. And coming to map aided program, today we will see about the major tectonic plates. This tectonic plates, they are actually pieces of planet's lithosphere. They are also called, because of that, these tectonic plates are also called lithospheric plates. So in the figure, you can see that 7 major plates are given and some of the minor plates are also given. So the major plates include Pacific plate, North American plate, South American plate, African plate, Eurasian plate, Indo-Australian plate and Antarctic plate. So there are 7 major plates, and some of the minor plates include Somali plate, Nazca plate, Cocos plate, Arabian plate. All these are some of the minor plates. Alright. So you must understand that there are 7 major plates. As I said, these plates are actually the pieces of planet's lithosphere, and these plates float on top of asthenosphere, which is the layer which is below the lithosphere. Alright, and you have studied about ring of fire. So in the figure you can see that the Pacific plate and the North American plate is converging and colliding. So this converging colliding portion, this forms the Pacific ring of fire, and Due to this collision, it will form earthquake, volcanism and all in this region. So the Eurasian plate and the Indo-Australian plate, they will converge and collide, and this gave to the development of Himalayas, and still because of the collision, still Himalayas are said to be growing. Alright, so this is about the major plates, and there are about 8 minor plates. Just go through that. Like the minor plates include Somali plate, Nazca plate, Philippines plate, Arabian plate, Cocos plate, etc. Scotia, all these are minor plates. Coming to PQRS, the question is, Gadgil Committee report and the Kasturi Rangan Committee report, sometimes seen in news, are related to A. Constitutional reforms, B. Ganga action plan, C. Linking of rivers, and D. It is protection of Western Ghats. So the answer is very easy. This is a question from 2016 prelims, and the answer is very easy. I hope you know the answer. There is not much need of explanation. It is the answer is D. It is for the protection of Western Ghats. The Gadgil Committee report and Kasturi Rangan Committee report was formulated for the protection of Western Ghats. So you know that Western Ghats is a biodiversity rich area, and the Western Ghats is really ecologically fragile location, and it is necessary for protecting this area and its biodiversity. So for this, the Kasturi Rangan report and the Gadgil Committee was formed. Alright. Today, I'll ask you a question from the topics which you have studied, that is, consider the statement about ILO. First statement, it is the only tripartite UN agency. 2. The organization has won Nobel Peace Prize. And the third statement, it is the World Social Protection Report is released by ILO. Okay, these are the 3 statements, and you have the options A, 1 and 2, B, 1 and 3, C, 2 and 3, and D, it is 1, 2 and 3. So you can answer the question in the comment section, and that's it for today. We'll wind up today's class. So further references, you can refer the current affairs material. Thank you for watching.